What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Sports Speaks, back on YouTube for the first time in a while. Hashtag keep it real. I'm Sravan alongside my guys, RJ in the ATL, Eric in Burlington, Tyler in the West, and we're excited to welcome the newest member, the sixth man of Sports Speaks, Will Johnson, also from the ATL. Gentlemen, how's it going?
What's up? What's up? What's up?
Well,
It was good.
All right, our boy Zach is out tonight doing his thing, but as always, hit that subscribe button down below. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. We got our Instagrams and Twitters. Will be popping up here shortly. Now, most of y'all have been asking, where the heck have we been? Let's just say our school schedules have been pretty busy, but not our coverage skills. Let's get right down to it. First up in the NFL today. Last night, the Cleveland Browns took on the Cincinnati Bengals. It was a barn burner of points, but Baker Mayfield came out victorious with a 35-30 victory, going for over 200 yards and throwing interception ill-advised to William Jackson, but he did have a great touchdown pass to OBJ. Joe Burrow threw for over 60-plus times, over 300 yards, no interceptions, but unfortunately he's 0-2 to start his career. Well, I'm going to start with you on this one. Did this win prove that Baker's the better quarterback, or Burrow just is surrounded by a lousy team?
That's a pretty good question when you're talking about a guy like Baker Mayfield. I mean, Baker Mayfield, let's be honest, he played pretty well last night. But, I actually got a chance to look at some other opinions on some talk shows today. And, some have said that they're still not impressed. And me personally, I don't want to give up on the guy. I mean, I'm not really that impressed either. I think for him, as the season goes, if he can play like he played last night consistently throughout the season, then I think he'll gain a little bit of that respect back. But I think just given how long he's been in the league, he played better. I personally think that for right now, he is better than Burrow. And I hate to switch gears real quick, but it's honestly mind-boggling when you talk about 61 pass attempts from a rookie quarterback. And I believe he completed 60% of those
Around
passes.
37 plus of those were completions.
Yeah, and that is just, I mean, it was crazy. But yeah, for right now, I'm gonna say Baker Mayfield is the better quarterback for right now. Yeah.
Eric, I want to get to you on this one. I remember you telling me that you don't like to see guys, throw for so much without balance. But do you think last night was just more about Baker or about Burrow just having bad luck?
I think it's more about Burrow because, I think if Baker Mayfield was such a better quarterback, I think the margin of victory would have been a lot higher. What was the final score? 35-30 Browns?
30. Yeah.
Right. So I think if Baker Mayfield was such the better quarterback, I think it would have been a more of a margin of victory. But I think it says more about the team that Burrow has around him. I think if you give him 60-plus pass attempts on any other team, I think it's a different outcome. This game honestly doesn't mean much for either team, but I think it means that Burrow is here. He's ready to compete, and he's going to do his thing. I mean, I like what I've seen from Burrow so far. Not to say that I'm unimpressed with Baker. He did a great job last night, but I don't know. I just think if you're looking at the individual, then Burrow losing the game was more impressive than Baker winning the game.
RJ, I want to get your thoughts on this one because you've been known to be very critical of certain performances, but you have to admit that what Burrow did in the loss, it is somewhat impressive. Obviously, sports is a wins and loss kind of game, but sometimes the stats and the wins come with different, features.
Well, when you think of Joe Burrow, you know what you're going to get. He's a winner. You saw that at LSU. He would put the team on his back. And what I saw last night is a quarterback that the Bengals were looking for a long time in Joe Burrow. He didn't give up when they were down. And, him throwing the ball 60-plus times, I was talking to Will about that yesterday. We've never really seen that before. And the fact that he did that, and it just shows you that he has what it takes to be in this league. And I always say that a quarterback needs to be about that NFL life. And what that means is they're not afraid of the spotlight. This is like his second game in the NFL. He's playing a primetime game. And it was the Browns, but, he put up a good contest. But I was mostly impressed with Joe Burrow, even though he lost, because he's showing what it takes to be in the NFL. And I think that every quarterback in college should be looking at him and saying, I can do that, And I'm thinking that he's going to be the quarterback for the Bengals for like a very long time.
Tyler, your thoughts on this?
Well, I think it comes back to something you guys hadn't mentioned yet, and the weapons on the offensive side of the ball. I think you look at Baker's weapons, and he has Jarvis Landry, Odell. He's got Kareem Hunt coming out the backfield. He's got Njoku. And then you look at Joe Burrow tossing touchdowns to C.J. Uzoma and Mike Thomas. And no, not that Mike Thomas.
Yeah.
And I mean, like you guys said, 61 times. To me, last night showed that the 2018 number 1 overall pick is the 4th best quarterback in that division.
I agree.
No doubt about it. We got the
I agree.
quarterbacks with, before I get to you, Archie, we got Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen, Josh Allen, and Lamar Jackson. Now, those are the 5, if I'm not mistaken. Rosen's on the practice squad. The other 4 are still with their teams. But clearly Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, I would say, headline the top 2 positions from that draft. But speaking of quarterback play, we've all been blessed to have seen it. RJ, Eric, Tyler, us 4, we've seen Tom Brady for most of our careers. Will has had the experience of Michael Vick in his heyday when he was shocking everybody in the ATL, making everyone go, what? And then you had Matt Ryan during the MVP season. But we've all seen substantial quarterback play. But what I want to know is, does Baker Mayfield, is it possible that he'll ever be the 2nd best quarterback in that draft above Josh Allen? Because we know Lamar Jackson's number 1. So, Will, I'm going to toss it to you on that one.
Well, with Josh Allen, I see him. He's in somewhat of a kind of a fortunate situation. He got off to a better start than Baker Mayfield, and his weapons, you could argue, are just as good as Baker Mayfield. And Baker Mayfield kind of came on a little late and had a slump last season. So I think it's tough because he's already had a terrible start this season, but he's bounced back. Josh Allen has had a really good start, and his second game awaits. So I think I can't really tell you. I mean, I feel like possibly he could compete for it, but I mean, I guess right now I feel like Josh Allen still has the upper hand. I think he'll have the upper hand for a minute.
RJ, your thoughts?
I don't think that Baker Mayfield, as long as he's on the Browns and the Browns keep being the Browns, I don't see him being better than Josh Allen. It's not all of it's on his fault, but it's the Browns. They change too much. They're an impatient franchise. They had Hugh Jackson for what was it, 2016 to 2018, and then they fired him, and then they bring in Freddie Kitchens, and they fired him after 1 season. Changing like that, it's just bad for the team, and it's bad for the quarterback, especially because you keep changing systems and you keep changing the playbook. So I just think that the Browns need to be patient with the new head coach if they're able to do that. And, you saw yesterday that they kind of found their formula for their offense, because last week they couldn't get going against that Ravens defense. It was give the ball to Chubb and, give it to Baker Mayfield when you need to. So it wasn't like a game manager-esque quarterback type play, but you kind of saw that they're possibly getting their scheme going and their offense going. But I just don't trust the Browns as an organization. And it's not a knock on Baker Mayfield. It's just that I just think that they don't know what to do in that front office.
Eric, go ahead.
Well, first of all, I hate comparing quarterbacks because so much goes into the position, from the playbook to the weapons to the offensive line. I mean, we've seen how an offensive line can influence a quarterback's performance in Carson Wentz, getting hit almost every play. But if I'm going to compare these two, I think they're about the same. I mean, both guys are 2 quarterbacks who you can say, oh, that was a good drive, or that was a really nice pass. And then they can also make some throws that make you go, what are you doing? They have these head scratching moments, which I guess happens to everybody, no matter your position. But I got to give the edge to Josh Allen just because, and again, like I think Allen's definitely in a better system. He definitely has better weapons, but he's also more mobile, I think, than Baker. He can kind of improvise a little bit better. He can get out of the pocket and he can make things happen. And that's really what the league is becoming now. So I think if Baker wants to thrive, I think I agree with you, RJ. He's got to get out of Cleveland. But for
It's
Josh
either
Allen,
that or they got to change. Yeah.
yeah. For Josh Allen, I think he's just got to keep doing what he's doing until the Pats implode, which we don't know when that's going to happen.
And also, I like to add that I think I think about the scheme with the Browns too. You can kind of compare it to Jimmy Garoppolo's situation in San Francisco, where they basically run their offense through the run. They don't necessarily trust their quarterback. So I feel like that's kind of the same thing with the Browns right now. It's like, okay, we're still on the fence about Baker Mayfield, but this run game is the best we got right now. So we're
It's
just
a
going to
make
run
or
our
break.
offense through that.
It's definitely a make or break year for quarterbacks like Baker Mayfield and Dak Prescott. They have to do something this year, or they're out the door.
Yeah.
It's a really tough comparison because I think if you switch teams with those two, like if you put Baker Mayfield on the Bills and Josh Allen on the Browns, I think the teams end up having the same amount of success as they do now. But I could be wrong. And maybe some things that experts see that I don't. But yeah, I think Josh Allen honestly is in a better position to succeed.
True, and we can probably go with that. Tyler, I want to get to you, particularly on this one. Eric, you brought up the Eagles with Carson Wentz. That week one performance when he gave up 8 sacks. Now, granted, the offensive line was banged up, but it looked a lot like the Eagles have still not recovered from that Super Bowl 52 victory. And Tyler, you obviously being the big Patriot fan with that stuff in the background, I got to get your thoughts on this. Do you think the Eagles are still resting on those laurels, or is it just a case of bad timing?
Every single year from when the Eagles won the Super Bowl, I saw people talking about how they were going to win the NFC, how they were going to win their division, which is less of a stretch, or that they were going to go far in the playoffs. And every single year, I knew it wasn't going to happen. Now, obviously, it's week one. You can't overreact. There's so many things that you look back to week one of last year. I mean, you look back to week 2 of last year, and the Patriots had the best wide receiver core in the NFL, and look how that turned out. But
Please don't remind me of that.
I don't understand this kind of idea of where year in and year out, people think the Eagles are going to be Super Bowl contenders. The year they won the Super Bowl, they were coming off a 7-9 season. I believe they were third place in the division, so they were playing third place opponents. They happened to get a run there. Carson Wentz did really well. The offensive line was good. The schedule was cake, and then the defense kind of carried them throughout the playoffs. People forget that Falcons almost beat them. The 6-year Falcons were a pass away, and they almost beat them. I know you guys know about that.
Leo catching that pass is a different story.
That team just had everything go right for them in the NFC Championship game and also the Super Bowl. So it is no surprise to me to see the Eagles barely win the division last year and then this year get off to a rocky start. This team is not a Super Bowl contender. They're not even a playoff team. I think Doug Peterson's a decent coach. People say he's a top 5 coach. He's not top 5. Some of the play designs and the plays I see are called, I scratch my head. I remember to 2018 when they lost to the 1-4 Colts at home. And I was like, how does this happen if you're a Super Bowl contender? And then you flash forward to this year and they're off to a bad start. And I told you guys before the game, I said, don't be surprised if Washington wins. And I mean, they scored 27 unanswered. And that wasn't a surprise to me. The Eagles will win 7 games max this year, and they're going to have a lot of questions. And a lot of people are going to attribute that to maybe injuries or a poor wide receiver core. This team hasn't drafted great. I think they got Jalen Hurts for a reason. I don't think they think that Carson Wentz is the guy anymore, and I'm not so sure he is either.
Right.
You really see, depends on what happens there. And Eric, I'll get to you just 1 second here, but
Sure.
Obviously, you have a point there. That schedule is that was a cake-like schedule, a pretty simple schedule, if you know what I mean. And when I met RJ, Eric, and Tyler for the first time, we talked about that that schedule was pretty easy, and that got a really lucky play. But Eric, I'm gonna get your thoughts on this one because, as obviously gifted as you are, you're pretty outspoken on the Eagles. So have
And
at it.
before Eric goes, I do have one more thing to add.
Go
In
for it.
that Super Bowl, they probably had the luckiest string. I've never seen a team complete that many fourth downs or have that many call. I mean, there was,
They got
I
so
think,
lucky.
3 touchdowns that could have looked at, and it was a 50-50 toss. The fact they won that game was amazing. And then the fact that
So lucky.
Brady didn't complete that pass to Gronk at the end, it almost was, it obviously football is a game of inches, but that Super Bowl, I've never seen anything go exactly that way. Cook's getting injured. I think they completed like 4 fourth downs. And like I say, the 2 or 3 touchdowns that could have gone 50-50. So this team has never impressed me. Obviously, props to them for winning the Super Bowl, but I've never been a believer in the Eagles, and I won't until I see different.
All right, Eric, go
That's
ahead.
funny.
Well, I was impressed with the Eagles that Super Bowl year because, I saw a lot of the 2001 Patriots in that team. Like you said, they adopted that underdog mentality. They had a couple lucky plays go their way. Tuck rule, anybody? I'm not going to knock the Eagles
Yeah.
for a championship that they won. I respect them for that. But I'm hesitant to say this because people could make the case for my favorite quarterback right now, Cam Newton. But this is my opinion on Carson Wentz. I think the Eagles should have stuck with Nick Foles after that playoff run. I really do. And I don't blame them for giving the ball back to Carson Wentz because he was the favorite for MVP. He was on his way to an MVP season. And I know that, he's had injuries. Guys go in and out of the door. A lot of stuff happens that influences your performance as a quarterback. But I really think that the 2017 Wentz was just a flash in the pan. I'm really not impressed with Carson Wentz. This isn't against the Eagles. This is just Carson Wentz as a player. If you look at his stats, he's not that good against teams over 500. He's not an impressive quarterback, and I think you put him behind that offensive line this year, he's going to have a lot of struggles. I think if the Eagles stuck with Nick Foles, and again, I'm not blaming them for going with Wentz because I understand the decision. But it was really just a case of bad luck, bad timing, because I think if the Eagles stuck with Foles, we would be talking about them as Super Bowl contenders every year since that Super Bowl year.
That's fair. And I want to clarify, no disrespect to Carson Wentz. I've actually heard he's a really nice guy. And I think he's a good football player. But I think, like you guys said, with the offensive line, and I don't know if he, like Eric said, I don't know if he can really win against you look at the NFC, you got the Saints, the 49ers, now the Buccaneers.
Ooh, the Saints.
I know there's teams I'm forgetting, the Packers, and I don't know if he can beat those teams. So ultimately, no disrespect to them. They won the Super Bowl, but I've never really looked at them like I look at a Patriots or a Seahawks. That's a team I'm forgetting. A Seahawks, where I know automatically going in, even the Saints as of late, I know automatically going into the season, this team is going to be at least a 9-10 win team. I've never really looked at them like that.
Dude, a quarterback with Carson Wentz's list of injuries, you put him behind that offensive line, he's going to be a pile of Band-Aids by the end of the season.
That's
Yeah,
true.
I could agree with that.
Yep.
But to your point, Tyler, I was cracking up over here when you were getting on the Eagles. I agree with a little bit of both. I do think the Eagles should stick with Nick Foles, to Eric's point, because this isn't a knock on Nick Foles, but he's a product of he is the definition of a system quarterback. He's only good with the Eagles. Like, he's not bad with other teams. He just plays like God with the Eagles. Nick Foles magic, and he just goes off. And Carson, he had that good 2017 season, and he's not a bad quarterback. And I agree with Tyler that the Eagles are a little bit overrated. I still think they're better than the Cowboys because the Cowboys are overrated every single year by their fans and by the media. But I still have the Eagles winning the division this year because of continuity, and this is Mike McCarthy's first season as a head coach. And I also have the Cowboys losing this Sunday and to the Falcons. That'd be a shocker. But I actually do agree with both of your points, a little bit of both. But I do think that the Eagles' Super Bowl run was not against the Falcons so much. That was just a dogfight, a good game. If we can sit here all day and say if Julio catches the ball, but that was just, that was a dogfight. That was a good old-fashioned playoff game. It's one of the best playoff games I've ever seen. The Vikings, they killed the Vikings. In the Super Bowl, I have a bunch of family members that are Eagles fans, and, they were dogging me out after, they beat them. And I tried to tell them they got super lucky, because Brady threw for 500 yards in that game?
505.
505, and he was killing them, If he goes down, he was about to go down that field before that fumble. My gosh, he was about to go down that field and break their hearts. But
Both passing yards in the game.
But I do agree that a little bit of both. That about your points about Carson Wentz and the Eagles, I do agree with a little bit of both.
RJ, you're putting some dangerous comparisons in my head, so I'm not going to come right out and say it, but let's look at Nick Foles that year, okay? Franchise quarterback gets injured. He takes over, gets his team through the playoffs with a couple of lucky, miraculous plays, goes to the
I know where you're
Super
going with this.
Bowl, a massive
Where he's
underdog,
going.
and ends up winning. Who does that sound like? I'm not going to say it.
Yeah. We know this.
We know what you're
I'll
talking
let you
about.
guys fill in the blanks on that one.
Oh, no, Eric, I agree with you there. I'm just saying that, he's a product of – we hear, Brady's a system quarterback, and I'm like, well, Nick Foles is a system quarterback because he can't win outside of Philadelphia. So, I do agree with you, Eric. I do agree. Speaking
of quarterbacks, before we head off tonight, RJ, the Saints, man, I know you and Will have been very vocal being down in the ATL. Now, granted, one of you is a Patriot, one of you is a Falcons fan. So, obviously, both perspectives are very, very key here. But when we saw what happened with TB12 in Tampa, just that one game, the Saints, Cameron Jordan was out there talking smack when he couldn't even get a sack on a rookie tackle. Noted, a rookie offensive tackle.
I got a lot to say.
And even though Saints were partying in the locker room as if they were at, quote unquote, the club.
Go ahead, Will. I got a lot to say. You go first.
Well, okay. I have a lot I can say about the New Orleans Saints as an organization and as a team, but I might get a little out of hand, so we're just gonna save that for now. But I'm gonna say this, just from a football fan perspective, the Saints played well defensively. Okay, let's just call it like it is. They played well. Now, a lot of people will say that the Falcons' 2016 Super Bowl run was an anomaly.
No,
I personally believe that the New Orleans Saints win in Week 1 is an anomaly because I feel like it's now – this is really a precursor to the Saints' downfall for a couple of years because now, look, they're still not for certain they're going to get Michael Thomas for Week 2, and even if they do have him, they're going to struggle. And that might open. That's probably going to start. Exactly. That's probably going to start opening the floodgates. It's just for me. Don't get your hopes up about this Saints team, because they're not. This isn't 2009 anymore. Okay, this isn't 2013 anymore. All right, this is an aging QB in Drew Brees who is on his way out the door. I think this is his last season. Okay, and soon. I believe they just extended Alvin Kamara, I believe.
Yeah, they did.
But
they did last week.
I don't even think they're going to finish out in New Orleans. I really don't. That might be a stretch, but I don't see them finishing their careers in New Orleans. But yeah, I just really that's based my whole perspective on the Saints as a team right now. I just feel like Week 1 was an anomaly. Now personally, I still think the Saints may still be on the cusp as a playoff team. I still see them winning maybe 9 games, maybe 9 to 10 games. But I really think Week 1 was an anomaly.
RJ?
I definitely agree with Will 100%. When you watch that game, listen, this is I hate the Saints as much as I hate the Chiefs and the Bills, but they are a cocky-ass team. For the last 3 years, we can talk about the Rams game all we want to. They've been in the playoffs the last 3 years and they have choked. They are the most overrated team in the NFL, in my opinion. Now, granted, they are a great football team. They got a great defense. But what I saw in that game is one, a quarterback that still has it, and two, a quarterback that doesn't have it anymore. Drew Brees can only throw the ball 10 to 15 yards. And I said in that Vikings game in the wild card round last season that I think that he was about done. Like, he could still play, but when the Bucks game came around, I was watching and I said to myself that Brady was going to go down the field and score his first drive, and he did. I think it was his first. Was it the first or second
That was
drive?
the very first drive they scored.
Very first drive, and you saw they may have lost, but it was the Saints defense. So this year it's going to be a Saints defensive team, and Drew Brees, that Buccaneers defense is legit. I don't care what anybody says. There was a lot
That
of
Buccaneers
question
defense
marks.
needs more
There
respect.
was a lot of question marks going into the season about their secondary, and they fixed their secondary. And that D line, they were getting pressure on Breeze, and he only had 168 yards, I believe, or something like that. Now, granted, I do think that the Saints will still be a great team. They'll still make the playoffs, but every year I come out and say that they're not as good as people think, and people get mad at me. But if Tom Brady didn't go to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I would say the Saints are going to win the division. But you have a quarterback that knows how to win, and as the season progresses, I think that the Bucks are going to get better. Like by October, you're going to see the Bucks go on like a win streak because I still think they have some chemistry things to work out, and they're going to start off slow a little bit. I expect them to win this Sunday, but by January, I think the Bucks, they won't win a division. I still think the Saints will, but I think that the Bucks are a team that's trending upwards, and the Saints are trending downwards because this is a make or break year for the Saints. They have to win the Super Bowl because this is Drew Brees' last season. I don't care that if he's on a 2-year contract. He needs to win the Super Bowl this year, and it's going to be difficult.
No doubt about it. And obviously, these takes we'll just have to pan them out and see how it all goes down. But for all of you guys listening out there, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below. Follow us at Sports Speaks. Look for that shield. There's 6 guys here with the same motto of keeping it real. As always, we'll try to get you the best content we can. From all of us here, we say so long and have a great night, guys.
Thanks.